Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Let's get after it.
I was just out on the mini bike, and what do I see? A deer!
That's a weird looking deer. Or maybe it's not. Throughout Appalachia, people have encountered something that looks like a deer, but there's something off about it. So they call it the not deer. Now, there are a couple theories as to what it might be, and I'll let you know what I think at the end of the video. According to the stories, people who have seen these things think it's a deer, but when they get closer, they can tell that it's something else. Some accounts report intelligent human-like eyes, more like that of a predator, even extra eyes as well as sharp teeth. Their body proportions are all wrong too, and some report that they have a human-like torso. They also have the ability to walk on their hind legs, which are often misshapen and they bend at unnatural angles. Their movements are often jagged and aggressive, and if they see you first, they may move towards you with an unnerving precision. Some think they're actually skinwalkers, wendigos, or some kind of cryptid. However, skeptics think that what people are seeing is actually deer with chronic wasting disease, a prion disease that affects the brain. Now, I think that explanation makes a lot of sense, but there is some strange stuff that's reported in Appalachia. People are seeing these deer-like creatures that don't have the hallmarks of chronic wasting disease. They're something else entirely. I think it's possible that people are seeing some kind of creature. Maybe a mutated species perhaps, or something supernatural. But what do you think? Make sure to leave a comment and let me know what cryptid you want to hear about next.
Stay out of the woods in Appalachia. There's constantly tales of creatures and cryptids and stuff living in the Appalachian Mountains. I think a lot of them are just stories. There are people living in the Appalachian Mountains that are truly living off the land, like sleeping outside in the woods, living off the land. I think that's where a lot of these stories come from. I think that there are just people that are living out there that get seen in the woods, and it's scary to walk up on somebody that lives out in the wilderness. They're probably going to have appearance of being feral and animalistic. So I think that's where a lot of these stories come from. But chronic wasting disease is in that area. I looked it up, and so that could account for probably the majority of these deer sightings.
We are finally at the shed. Here it is. Put a lock on it. Let me get this lock off and let's inspect it. Quick little shed tour. The dryer, which is broken and super dirty. This is a little light. So when the police came in here, they went right here. They looked around, they didn't see anything. The washer is also broken. So you can see like pieces are broken off and it's yellow inside. Nothing works. I don't know what's going on with that. You got just laundry stuff, all empty. I don't know how it's empty because nobody does laundry. This is my new water heater. Just some wood and cardboard boxes. He left the backpack behind and we didn't see it. So there's no backpack in there. There's no backpack behind it. Just a bunch of blinds. There's nothing. It's just normal stuff. Yeah, where would it be? We have a couple gaps. There's no way anybody could fit through these. Oof. As you can see, all the walls are all solid. Let's walk around the outside. And there's the Ring camera that picks up the whole thing. You can see it's right there. This is all solid. As you can see, clearly no windows. It's all solid. There's nowhere else that he could have gone. He came from this way right here. So he walked around the side here, went to the shed there, and then the guy left coming out of here that way.
So I think it's time to put this whole shed mystery to bed. I don't think that there's a mystery there. It's very interesting, and we followed it on the channel. So for that reason, I thought it would be cool to put the tour of the inside of the shed on here for everybody to watch. But I think that this all boils down to his camera picked a guy up entering the shed, and it didn't kick on whenever he left. Another guy went in the shed, and the camera didn't pick it up, but it did pick him up leaving. I think that's all there is to it. I think it all boils down to just a mysterious circumstance that looks suspicious, like there's something more to it than there actually was.
There's a whole conspiracy about the Titanic. So the Titanic had a sister ship.
Yep.
Sister ship didn't have insurance on it.
Oh.
And was heavily damaged. And the men, I want to say it was JP Morgan, that was like one of the backers.
Yeah,
for
yeah,
the
yeah.
Titanic.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
He was like, well, we got to collect insurance on this. So they quickly scrubbed the paint off and stuff and wrote on the Titanic, went out to sea. JP Morgan was actually supposed to be on that ship.
But then didn't get on it.
Didn't get on. They went out and then they sunk. They were able to collect the insurance money.
1,500 people or something like that died.
Yeah.
It's so sad.
Crazy.
But recently they've been examining the hull and stuff of the Titanic. They said it actually looks like in the boiler room there was explosions.
That's so
And like the
strange.
fact that the guy in the crow's nest didn't have binoculars.
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, what's going on?
And the captain, he went way off course. It was like something like 200 miles off course.
Wow.
Yeah, that kind of surprised me.
Towards icebergs.
Kind of surprised me where thing is, like
Yeah.
where Titanic actually went. Like they said, what was it?
Off of Nova Scotia.
Nova Scotia.
Oh yeah, Nova Scotia. Eh?
400 miles away, I think.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And I think they swapped those ships out and sank the Titanic to collect the insurance money. And it wasn't actually the Titanic. It wasn't the boat they said it was. It was the one that was already damaged so they could collect the insurance money off of it. And they just let all those people die for money. That's what I think happened.
I saw this conspiracy theory regarding Joe Biden being an actor, and it's not actually Joe Biden. Someone's like, hey, did you see this on IMDb? And then it like took off, but since then it's been taken off of IMDb. But it was a movie, and the title was Joe Biden sworn in as U.S. president on Inauguration Day 2021.
Shut up. No way.
And it only had one actor in the cast and crew,
Who was?
and his name is Arthur Roberts. This is Arthur Roberts, but they're saying that he had wearing a mask. Like, I don't know if you saw there was a picture where he was like kind of like looking down, and dude, it looks like he's wearing a mask.
No way.
But it's crazy. Like, it literally looks like you could just like grab it and just pull it off.
Yikes.
And it's
Yeah.
not super easy to get something on IMDb either. This happens with every president, because I remember when Hillary was running for president, she had like some type of medical issue. She passed out outside of her car.
Oh, no.
Like, and they like picked her up and put her in the car and stuff. And then later, you know, a one comes out and they're like, that's not her, that's a fake. And so
Yeah.
it happens with everything.
So I just thought that I would throw this in here to address this conspiracy because I see it come up a lot. And I don't think that Joe Biden is actually being played by an actor in a mask. I think that that would be too risky for them to try to pull that off. It would be too obvious. Now, they do have very realistic looking masks, but if they were going to hire a man to portray the president of the United States, I think that they would at least make sure that he could speak coherently, at least more coherent than the actual president does. Hey, if you're enjoying this video and you like this kind of content, I make a new one just like it every day, Monday through Friday. It'd be awesome if you hit that subscribe button and come back tomorrow to join me.
If you thought all of this stuff going on with Diddy is bad, there's people coming out saying that Jay-Z is no better. In fact, 50 Cent is basically saying, this is a lot worse than we think. He recently posted this picture saying that Jay-Z's in hibernation till all of this Diddy stuff blows over. No brunch, no lunch, no dinner. And there's a lot of dark conspiracies about Jay-Z. I mean, we have the incident with Tory Lanez.
Telling you, this court system is not for justice. It's about wins and losses, and they do dirty to do whatever they can. Jay-Z, let me speak to you because my son refused to sign a Rock Nation deal with you.
The conspiracies about Kathy White and what happened to her. The conspiracies with Aaliyah.
Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce.
And never forget when he wore this sweatshirt that says, do what thou wilt, which is literally a satanic mandate.
Now, I've got personally a lot of questions about Jay-Z and Beyonce and their whole connection to the satanic movement. It seems like they're spearheading the whole thing. Like they're at the top of the satanic pyramid in the music industry. So these accusations that are coming out about him, I don't doubt these accusations for a moment.
Is Antarctica the key to flat Earth? Admiral Richard Byrd led 4 expeditions to Antarctica, the 4th being Operation High Jump. In 1954, he spoke on TV of an area bigger than the U.S., never seen by human beings, and that within 180 miles beyond the South Pole, his team found enough coal in a mountain range not covered in snow though, to supply the whole world for quite a while. 1957, Bird dies of a heart issue in his sleep at 68 years old. 1 year later, 1958, NASA was formed, directing attention away from Antarctica and instead up to the moon. 1959, a year later, the UN treaty outlawing public travel south of the 60th parallel was enacted. Then a few years later, 1962, high-altitude nuclear tests were conducted, and they were called Operation Fishbowl. And now there are trillions of dollars spent to explore space and Mars, but why not Antarctica? Then they're like, okay, well, let's just make sure no one can go there, and then probably they're going to go there and explore things on their own under the radar. And then Operation Fishbowl, you're trying to blast through the top. Who knows if they cracked it or what the results of such a thing were, but it seems like they very much wanted to send all the attention upwards towards the moon and Mars. And then, of course, we got NASA and the fact that you've said the chevron logo is in every space organization on the planet, which shows they are interlocked and connected. Maybe they're all perpetuating the same lies. Very interesting. It's also kind of a Freemasonic symbol. It's kind of the compass. So who runs these space agencies? What is their true agenda? And are they just trying to distract away from anyone realizing where we really are?
I think that Admiral Byrd was the type of man that wouldn't have gone on national TV and lied. I think that he was telling the truth about what he saw, and that whenever he was giving that interview, he had not yet been told to keep his mouth shut. Either that or he was just a man of his word and he wasn't going to sit there and lie no matter what he had been told to do. But isn't it funny how the timeline works for all that stuff, how it all just fits in place? Like you can look back at it and see, all right, this happened on this date, this happened on this date, because of this, and then because of that, on this date, this thing happened. It's like it all lines up perfectly. But then they tell us, oh, there's nothing to see here.
This guy, he found some treasure in 1988. He figured out where this shipwreck was, and the ship was called the Ship of Gold.
Wow.
They went there and they found a lot of gold. And he sold the gold and made $52 million.
Whoa!
And then here comes the U.S. government.
They're going to tax you.
They sent him an audit and they said, we just need to know how much gold you have. And he said, no, I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
And they're like, all right,
Jail.
you're going to jail.
No way!
They put him in jail. His sentence was 2 years, contingent on telling them, 1, how much gold he had, and 2, where's the shipwreck.
Why?
After the 2 years, he goes, I don't remember.
Yeah.
Oh, forgot.
And they're like, okay.
Don't say it.
I mean, he's been there for 7 years now.
Bro.
Yeah. And so they're holding him indefinitely.
They don't have his money though, right?
I don't know.
USA, you're bitter as showing.
But I think it makes more sense that there's something on there that the U.S. really want. And he's just like, it would be too dangerous if the government had their hands on it.
Yeah.
So I will stay in prison.
Noble.
It's KFC's recipe.
I will stay in prison?
No.
Oh.
The recipe that's on the boat. That's what was on the boat.
It'd have been nice if they would have given us the name of the gentleman instead of just saying, there's this guy, because then we could look it up and see if this guy's still in jail. But all we have to go off of is that he's a guy. So if anyone's familiar with this story, drop a line down in the comments and let me know. Is this guy still in prison right now? Is he still holding out and saying, I forgot where all the gold is? It doesn't seem like he's just trying to keep the government's hands off of something that he found that he thinks is dangerous. It sounds like probably most Americans not trusting the government, knowing that they're just going to try to come in and steal everything. He's just going to keep his mouth shut in the hopes that he'll eventually get let out. And probably all of his family is benefiting from the money, so he's not that worried about sitting in jail because he knows that he's taking care of everybody that he's responsible for. This is just my thoughts, but if I found a bunch of money like that, the last person I'd tell is the U.S. government.
This woman had a portrait of Jesus Christ on her dress at the red carpet, and the security guards clearly did not want this picture to be shown to the public. This is Dominican actress Maciel Tavares, and at one point she pushes the security guard. This is just wild. Watch this.
was disgusting to watch. If you haven't come around yet to the idea that Christians are being persecuted openly in this country and others, you're just not looking. You're just not seeing it. It's shocking the level of disgust that the people in charge seem to have for the Christian faith.
One of the other lands in our realm that is heavily restrictive on our travel and exploration. They tell us there's nothing in the North Pole, just ice sheets. But looking back at hundreds of old world maps depicting something much different than we've been told, all showing the same 4 islands with a mysterious black rock mountain in the middle, said to be a magnetic mountain. And not only are they depicting the same land, but they say they were inhabited. Just look at some of the descriptions, even a Tartarian village. The famous cartographer Mercator in 1577 wrote a letter to a friend in England describing the North as this: in the midst of the 4 countries is a whirlpool, into which there empties these 4 indrawing seas, which divide the North, and the water rushes round and descends into the earth, just as if one were pouring it through a filter funnel. It is 4 degrees wide on every side of the pole, that is to say 8 degrees altogether, except that right under the pole there lies a bare rock in the midst of the sea. And it was far from just one cartographer. Chinese, Japanese, the world over were showing us the same. These cartographers at the time, jobs and reputations depended on their accuracy. They weren't just going to repeat something unverified for centuries. There has been many detailed lands in this realm that have been erased, not just the North Pole, but places like Friesland. But what do you think, signs of a reset, or cartographers copying each other? Question everything, friends. Until next time.
Tell you what this makes me think about is that big mountain that they're showing in those maps. It makes me think of the mountain that Admiral Byrd claimed to have witnessed that's made out of coal. I don't know if that's relevant here because I didn't hear any mention of waters flowing around said mountain, so there's nothing there to line up with that to add further evidence to it, but this is what it makes me think of.
The Loch Ness Monster is real. Reports of the Loch Ness Monster date back almost 1,500 years, and by the 20th century, increasing reports led to massive public interest in Nessie. In 1933, a witness named George Spicer reported a sighting where he and his wife saw this large-bodied creature in the middle of the road near the water. It had a long neck, and he thought it looked prehistoric before it shuffled off into the loch. And this is the surgeon's photo, taken in 1934 by Robert Kenneth Wilson. This is perhaps the most famous picture of Nessie, however, it was determined to be a hoax. One theory suggests that if there is some unknown large creature in Loch Ness, it could be part of a population of plesiosaur-like animals that somehow survived after the dinosaurs went extinct. But it's thought that plesiosaurs lived in salt water, and Loch Ness is freshwater. However, in 2022, fossils of a plesiosaur were discovered in an ancient riverbed in Morocco, which happened to be a freshwater river. It doesn't prove the existence of Nessie, but it is interesting that these animals could live in fresh water. And even though massive search efforts have been conducted to find Nessie over the years, the evidence has always been inconclusive. That is until 2020, when some very compelling sonar data was collected by Ronald McKenzie while conducting a tour of the loch with his catamaran. This data showed some 33-foot-long creature swimming in the depths of the loch. And even though skeptics think that Nessie is just a hoax or a fish, with recent evidence and continued sightings to this day, many people believe that.
And the best part about this is that we will find out soon if there is something down there, because they're actively looking for it once again and employing the help of NASA to do it. So I don't know what exactly NASA is going to bring to the table to assist them, but interesting nonetheless. We'll hopefully get an answer pretty soon.
This young boy was born again. This is the incredible true reincarnation story that's going to absolutely blow your mind. This guy right here is Carl, and when he was young, some pretty insane things were going on. We know kids always have an obsession with the army, the war, planes, guns, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, pretty normal, right? But not Carl. This was a whole different level. From the age of about 2 or 3, before he even went to school, before he went to preschool, he hadn't read any books or anything, but he knew everything about World War II. How? He could name every gun, he could name specific battles, he could even name people who apparently were in the war as well with him. Now one day him and his father went to an air show where there were some planes flying above, and he literally pointed up to the plane, named it exactly the model and everything of that plane, and said, "I used to fly those in the war." What? This went on and on and on, constantly him just saying how he used to be in the war, how he was a fighter pilot for the Germans, and knew absolutely everything. Now one day the family were on holiday in Germany and actually went to visit the war graves. The young boy just ran straight over to one of the graves, started crying and collapsed on the floor right next to it. He looked up at his parents and said, "That was me." They researched the name and sure enough it was a German fighter pilot who died on the date that he said he died and in the exact plane that he was talking about. Crazy coincidence or something more going on? Let me know in the comments down below.
So if you've watched this channel at all and seen any kind of reincarnation videos, you know that I absolutely eat this stuff up. I think it's so fascinating to hear stories of people claiming to have lived past lives that they can actually remember, and find it very interesting that this kid actually kind of looks like the photo of the guy he's claiming to have been. There's no way to prove for sure that reincarnation is a real thing, but I love it whenever we get evidence like this that seems so out there yet is so concrete. This kid remembered things that there's no way he could have known, unless he was highly educated on the history of the war. But at such a young age, how would you even get a child interested in such a dark topic?
It's this little tiny pea-shaped object deep inside the brain. So a lot of people represent it up here as the third eye, but in true reality, it's not in the front. It's way deep in the center of the brain. It's been known since deep antiquity, super ancient times, so that this thing was an eye. In other words, it has photoreceptors. They knew that this thing had the capability of receiving photons and light waves and then channeling it throughout the body. Also, the third eye, it has these hairs on it, which are like receiving antennas, because it's your spiritual antenna. It's your connection to the higher dimensions that exist. We know that this universe has 11 dimensions based on string theory. They just discovered that the human mind can exist and perceive up to 11 dimensions, the same amount as the universe. Our mind is a fractal of the whole, and this is peer-reviewed quantum physics. Also made of crystals. There's crystal in there, and crystals have an amazing power. When you put pressure on a crystal, it releases energy. When you put the pressure of the spinal fluid on the pineal gland, it sparks. When it sparks, it releases DMT. You can create the same experience as taking ayahuasca. You can have your own DMT. You don't have to take it from a plant and have somebody out in the jungle somewhere. You don't even know if they're going to take advantage of you, because it's happened to a lot of people. You can do it in the privacy of your own home with a guided meditation, and you can trigger the same exact response. It allows you to reach higher levels of dimensions and consciousness. When you tap into understanding how the third eye works, you're closer to real-time information, because scientists discovered that there's a 7 to 8 second delay in between the time that something happens and the time that we realize it happens. Everything that we see going on around us is 7 to 8 seconds delayed, unless you're moving from the third eye, the pineal gland. When you tap into that, your intuition skyrockets, and intuition turns you into a surfer versus a person that's standing in the ocean waiting for the wave to crash over.
That's something I wish I could do, was meditate, because this sounds absolutely fantastic. It sounds like one of the greatest experiences that you could have, to have this natural DMT trip. But every time I try it, I just fall asleep. I'll either not be able to get focused and relaxed enough, and so I'll have to give up, or I'll get too relaxed and end up passing out. But it's one of those things, I'm not going to give up on it. I'm going to keep trying it. If I am ever able to do it and actually pull off this natural DMT trip, I will absolutely report back and let everybody know what the experience was like.
Greenbrier Hotel. Have you heard of that?
No.
The Greenbrier Hotel is a hotel that is 5 hours away from Washington, D.C. It was built in the early 1900s, and they're going to do some renovations to it. And a lot of presidents, royal members, like all these elites of the world, they would go and stay at this hotel. So the U.S. government commissioned, basically build a 120,000 square foot bunker underneath this hotel. And literally no one knew about it.
Oh my gosh, typical.
The hotel staff didn't even know about it.
Crazy.
For over 30 years.
Wow.
How did it get discovered?
This is where it gets crazy, because the Washington Post basically was granted permission to talk about this bunker that was underneath this hotel. And that article came out in 1992, and then the government stopped using this bunker in 1995, which is the same year the Denver airport was finished.
Typical.
This bunker underneath the Greenbrier Hotel, it had like a Congress room and everything. So it's like literally where like all the U.S. elites would go in case of a...
They stopped using it the same year that they opened the Denver airport? I wonder why. It's a huge clue right there to what's going on at the Denver airport. I thought this was interesting because it kind of points to what the Denver airport's being used for. And there's so many wild conspiracy theories about the Denver airport and what its purpose is, because there's so much weird satanic looking symbolism and crazy art installments and stuff that don't make any sense. And if I'm not mistaken, there's like an entire wing you're not allowed to go into that's supposedly under renovation. Apparently the Denver airport is the new location of their underground bunker that they're using. Totally makes sense to me. I just wonder what nefarious things are going on down there.
Did you watch the Kevin Hart interview?
But I've had people throw millions of dollars in my face to do something I didn't want to do. And what? Just, you've been off, yeah. Oh, they're in the room.
Yeah. They're listening. Like, okay, who's listening? Whoever that is, they have a lot of control and they have a lot of power. And at the end of the day, whether you look at the history of Disney, whether you look at the history of Hollywood, a lot of these organizations are just psyops to control society.
That was very telling. How do you explain that away? If you're Kevin Hart, how do you explain that away if you're to be asked later on, why did you act that way, or why did you react that way to what Kelly Clarkson was saying? I bet you he can't give an answer. That was one of the best clips I think I've seen yet of a celebrity being kind of talked into a corner and not knowing what to say because of their handlers. But guys, I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here. I hope you enjoyed these clips we watched together today. Don't forget to head over to www.barry-stepp.com and buy yourself a shirt or a hat. This is not one of my hats, but I have a hat there. Has this on it. I hope everybody's having a great day today. I'll be back tomorrow with another video. Don't forget to come and join me. I hope everybody has a great, safe, fantastic rest of your evening, and I will see you in the next video.